Sir, shall we start, sir? Sir?
Yeah.
Sir, now we'll start, sir.
No. Should I also do something? Should I go live or something, or
No, it's
am I
now live,
visible?
sir. Now live, sir. And I will change it to screen mode to video mode, sir.
Okay. No, whatever. But is my presentation seen? Is it
Yes,
visible?
sir. We can make it again, sir. We can make it again, sir. Right.
No. You're able to see my. Is it changing? Second slide.
Sir, now I have changed it, sir. If you please go to that screen share mode.
No. You put it in screen mode. It's actually a presentation only. You share my screen.
Sir,
Is everybody able to see my screen?
Sir, let's see introduce, sir. Then we'll go for screen share mode, sir.
No, I have actually shared my screen.
No, actually, I turned it
Shall I
off,
move it
sir.
again? Oh, okay. But I think it says bandwidth problem. I don't know. Why?
No, sir. Now, once he introduces, then we'll go for sharing. No issue, sir.
Okay, fine. Right, you can start.
Yes. So, 11 you start.
Good, better, best. Never let it rest. Till the good is better, better is best. Happy afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the afternoon session of Faculty Development Program on Sustainable Smart City. This session is going to be about smart transportation, and here we have our special guest to speak about that briefly. Now, I would like to invite Dr. S. Moses Shantakumar. He has completed his Bachelor of Engineering and Masters and also his doctorate in transportation at IIT Madras. He has published 18 Indian journals and 11 international journals. He is a very knowledgeable person who attended 40 Indian conferences and 70 international conferences and also organized a number of workshops. He has worked as lecturer, assistant professor, head of the department, and senior project officer at various colleges, including IIT Madras. He has also developed a Rural Action Plan Integrated Database, which is a GIS software, and assisting the Directorate of Rural Development. His area of research includes his interest on transportation planning and CAD in transportation engineering and GIS. He is considered to be a fellow of Institution of Engineering, and he is the last member of Indian Road Congress (ISTE) and Institute of Urban Transport. He is also said to be a member of Highway Research Board. He is working as a professor in NIT at present. Welcome you, sir. Now the session is yours.
Yeah, dear participants, can you hear me?
Sir, can you share your screen, sir?
I'm just trying. Just a sec. Okay, are you able to see me?
Yes, sir. Screen sharing.
Now is it okay?
Yes, sir. PowerPoint mode. Sir,
Oh, can you see the?
Yes, sir.
Okay, dear participants,
Sir,
very
screen.
good afternoon to you.
Now okay, sir.
Yeah, we'll get started. Dear participants, very good afternoon to you. I'm very happy that I'm able to deliver this presentation on smart transport for smart cities. The FDP on sustainable smart cities organized by Chennai Institute of Technology. Actually, at the outset, I must compliment CIT for arranging this webinar. As we all know, we are living in difficult times, and human interaction is very, very difficult and impossible. So we are able to at least share and exchange our knowledge through these kind of webinars. And it is indeed creditable that CIT has managed to organize this FDP, and that too on a very, very important topic, namely smart cities. Of course, our cities are on focus now, because we know that the corona is ravaging our cities primarily. So, and there is also the Government of India Smart City program, which is trying to make 10 cities in Tamil Nadu smart, including Chennai. But we can see for ourselves that we are in anything other than smart because of these, difficult issues. Of course, the corona could not be anticipated by anybody. But still, because of the modern technology, you are at least able to interact using these kind of modern tools like webinars. So, in this brief presentation, I will be talking about the transport component of the smart cities. We call it smart transport, or sometimes it is called as intelligent transportation systems. And we will also look at sustainability, because sustainability is also important. There is another thought which says we are in such difficult circumstances because not only our cities, our country has become unsustainable. We have been selecting non-sustainable options. So we will also look at what are the sustainable technologies and how they can be applied to transportation. We all know about our transportation problems. Are you able to see my second slide?
Sir, it will take time, sir. Just have you moved, sir?
Yeah, now second slide, direct transportation problems.
No, sir.
Oh, it is still changing. But it says screen is being shared.
Yes, sir.
What are you seeing now?
First slide only, sir.
Which one?
First slide, title slide, sir.
Okay, now
First slide only, sir.
you are not able to see my second slide, is it?
No, sir. We are not able.
Just a second, I'll try something. Because I think it is going into an infinite loop.
Oh. Open that.
No, it is not.
Sir.
No, I'm just seeing.
Okay.
But my audio is coming, no? I don't know why screen is not getting shared. Anyway, I will go through the screens slightly slow then. If you're not able to see the next slide, you just please warn me.
Yes, sir.
But my connection is good, it is not allowing me to share. Connection is good only.
Sir, reconnect, sir. Again, you just reconnect, it will work, I think.
You should reconnect. I think I have to change this option. Then it screen sharing. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But the screen sharing is not getting turned on.
Otherwise, can I do it, sir? That PDF?
No, the videos will not come now. Just a second. I'll just try once again.
Okay, okay.
Because last time, are you able to see the screen?
Not, no, sir. Not stand.
No, sir.
Oh, not even the first slide. Huh?
No, sir.
Okay, 1 second. Select. Are you able to see now?
Yes, sir. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Direct transportation problems.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah, we'll resume. So, as we all know, our cities are struggling with problems which are directly linked to transportation. For example, congestion. Wherever we go, we find that there are delays, there are congestion, a lot of traffic jams, and so on. Because cities are not having capacity. We cannot expand. We cannot widen the roads. We cannot add another tier to the city because of space problems as well as resource problems. And also the cost of the user is very high. For example, the amount we spend on fuel. Now that government is raising the fuel price by 50 paise every day, people are getting agitated. But it is not only the fuel cost, but also other costs like time. Supposing you are delayed for too long a period, and you are, let us say, a high earning member, and your time is worth, let us say, at the rate of 1,000 rupees per hour. Just think about that. If your delay is for half an hour, 500 rupees you have lost. So similarly, millions of people are losing that much of money. So the cost runs into crores of rupees. Okay, these are all problems with our cities. Then the rate of return is very low. So people are not investing into our cities. Ultimately, safety. In fact, we should start with safety. Safety is the most important aspect. Anyway, safety is also one of the problems. Next slide, are you able to see?
sir. Yes, sir.
You also have indirect problems, primarily air and noise pollution. Of course, now because of corona, people are telling that the air pollution has reduced considerably. 70 to 80% of the contribution to the air pollution is coming from the transport sector. Okay, so because there was no transport, no traffic, no vehicles, the air pollution got reduced. So which means that is the extent to which we are degrading the environment. Health issues, not only physical but also mental and spiritual. And global warming has always been a problem. Okay, to the extent of 75% of greenhouse gases being emitted by the transport sector, and we are reliant on the imported oil. So when the oil price goes up, we are forced to increase the price. Okay, so due to all these reasons, our transport sector, especially in the cities, is really struggling. This is a very common situation in our cities. Are you able to see this slide? So this is an everyday occurrence on the Mumbai suburban rail. You see that people are risking their lives when they have to commute to work. Are you able to see this slide?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Then soon we will be forced to resort to this. Actually, this is not from India, this is from Japan. In the Tokyo metro, they are pushing people inside. Okay, so they want to achieve as much density as possible. No, they want to transport more people. Okay, so these kind of situations will come to India also. And what I mentioned, safety. So again, these are everyday occurrences. I can keep on giving you a lot of photos because we look at them every day on the TV, on our newspapers, on our WhatsApp forwards. So road safety is a very, very important aspect, even in cities. Of course, Very spectacular accidents take place on highways, but cities are no exception. A lot of people are dying on our cities. So this is actually a slide which summarizes the importance of road safety. Even though this is not a lecture on road safety, I think any smart transportation system should not have so many fatalities and so many accidents. So if you look at the comparison among all the disasters, you see that spectacular disasters like earthquakes, Bhopal grass tragedy, then cyclones, they kill a lot of people. And super spectacular World Trade Center bombing, destruction of the Twin Towers killed 3,000 people. Okay, so but that seemed a huge number because all the people could see on their TVs that so many lives were being lost. And tsunami, when the tsunami hit us, so many people died. Maybe in India, not to the extent of 2.8 lakhs, which is the Pacific Rim figure, including Indonesia and other countries, Thailand. But more than 5,000 people died in India. Now you just compare this with the fatalities on the road. So road accidents are killing, now the figure is even higher, 1.5 lakh people every year. Can you think about that? So we generally say that there is a tsunami on our roads. Tsunami is not restricted to the coastal regions. Tsunami is also coming along our roads and killing our people. This is a terrible phenomenon. So actually, before I can conclude my lecture, somebody has died on the streets of Tamil Nadu. So it is estimated that within 40 minutes, every 40 minutes somebody is dying on our roads. And if you take the entire Indian subcontinent, every 5 minutes somebody is dying, which is a very, very sobering thought. Okay, so many people are getting killed. Not only the loss and grievance to the people, but also economic loss. So something like 55,000 or 60,000 crores, which is a considerable percentage of our GDP, is also lost. So all these problems are there in our cities. So how to tackle them? So I'm going to talk about the so-called transport solutions within the purview of the smart cities. I think you might have seen this slide earlier. People would have been talking about various aspects of smart cities. And you can concentrate on the right hand side, middle, urban mobility. So there a few topics are listed like smart parking, intelligent traffic management and multimodal transport. So all these are actually part of the so-called intelligent transportation systems. So even though the lion's share for a smart city program goes to more important things like energy management and water management, water supply, and sustainability and sewerage and things like that, transportation component is also quite significant. So we are going to be looking at the so-called intelligent transportation systems. I hope you will be able to see this video. Are you able to see the video?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. See, it is telling you about so many different facets of intelligent transportation systems. We'll look at them in detail later. You can just try to observe the various elements and components. Primarily, the intelligent transportation systems were evolved in the US. So they have embedded systems on the road, roadside, vehicle-mounted systems, hands-free driving. So what exactly are intelligent transportation systems? So this is a very detailed definition, but what we can say is the application of sensor technologies, computer technologies and communication technologies to improve the safety and efficiency of the transportation system. So here the two keywords are safety and efficiency in that order. Safety is very, very important. Like we have seen, a lot of fatalities are there, a lot of accidents are happening. So how to improve the safety of the traveling public? That is one thing. Secondly, efficiency. What do we mean by efficiency? Efficiency means to go at in the shortest path in the minimum time from A to B. That is making say efficient. So efficiency also includes time management. Okay, whether your delays are minimum, whether your congestion levels are low, whether you're able to travel at reasonable speed, and so on. So both are being addressed by intelligent transportation systems. You can look at another video. So you have rerouting technologies like this, control centers. So alternate routes for congestion, and this information being transmitted to the vehicle. This is another definition of intelligent transportation systems. Okay, so every day we are dealing with stupid drivers. When we drive, we ask them whether they are stupid. We curse the other drivers. So, but the other drivers curse us. So basically, everybody in the traffic stream seems to be so unintelligent. So we cannot make them intelligent. So let us make the vehicles and roads intelligent. Okay, so basically in ITS or an intelligent transportation system takes a smart vehicle and adds ICT, information communication technology to that, and you have the transportation infrastructure. In fact, we have all these elements. Our transportation infrastructure is excellent. We have very good roads, we have expressways, and we have signals, everything, and we have very good vehicles. Smart vehicles are there. Most of the modern vehicles are smart. Then they have computer technologies. So it's only a question of merging them and then managing the communication systems in order to make the intelligent transportation system. Any vehicle can be made into smart vehicle. So you can take an old ambassador car and add ICT to that, you get a smart vehicle. Intelligent transportation systems is a vast area. In fact, we have at NIT Trichy, we have a master's level elective on intelligent transportation systems. So you see that there are so many different areas of intelligent transportation systems. We cannot really look at them in detail. So I will just highlight a few of them, like traveler information systems, then advanced public transportation systems, and traffic management systems like signal controls and so on. And there are so many other technologies involved. In fact, there are hundreds or thousands of books on intelligent transportation systems, and you can teach intelligent transportation systems over an entire semester. We are just going to look at it over a period of half an hour or so. Okay, so these are all basic things, and most of our modern vehicles have them. Like power steering is not that important, but definitely brake assist. You have the so-called ABS. Even your vehicle will have ABS now, anti-skid locking braking system, or anti-lock braking system, ABS. So here what happens is, supposing you are about to be involved in an accident, let us say the vehicle in front of you is braking suddenly, what do? So generally people jam their brake. So if you jam your brake, you are more likely to go into a skid, because the wheel will lock and that will send the vehicle into a skid. The problem with going into a skid is that your vehicle is out of control. It is just floating on the road and it doesn't have any braking. This vehicle, the speed is not getting reduced. Okay, so this ABS, what it will do is it will release the brake and allow the vehicle to rotate and develop friction, and then again apply the brake. And when the wheel is about to lock, again it will release the brake. So this manually we cannot do. Even though expert drivers pump the brake pedal and go into this system, it's very, very difficult to do it manually. So an ABS will automatically do it and improve your chances of not getting involved in an accident. And you have pre-crash system. See, you are, as I was telling you, the vehicle in front of you is braking and you are not looking at it, because maybe his brake light is not functioning, or it is misty, it is foggy, isn't it? So if you have a pre-crash system, it will detect the distance to the previous vehicle and will alert you. It may be a warning light or a flashing or a flash or a sound which is emitted, so that immediately you will wake up. Supposing you are daydreaming, you will wake up and apply the brake. Okay. Blind spot monitoring is very, very important, especially for big vehicles. Again, you might have seen when you drive on the road, you see that there are big trucks, and it is very, very dangerous to go close to the truck because the driver cannot see you. When you are trying to overtake the truck, especially from the left, many people try to overtake a truck from the left. He really cannot see you because he is having blind spots, and there will be an accident. Like what happened to Mariam Pichai, the minister in the erstwhile Dr. Jayalalitha's government. He was traveling at very high speed from Trichy to Chennai to attend a swearing-in ceremony. That was about 8 years back, and he was from the records they found that he was traveling at 140 kilometers per hour. Anyway, we'll come back to the speed matter later. What happened was suddenly a truck came onto his path because the driver did not notice this vehicle. He was traveling in a very, very safe vehicle, Innova, but still because he went and crashed into the truck, he died. So the blind spot monitoring is very important. So what happens is in an intelligent vehicle, the system will monitor the blind spot to see whether there is any obstruction in the blind spot. Then side assist, rear assist, especially when you are changing lane. In India, people are not bothered. In fact, in India, there is no lane discipline. We have laneless traffic. But just like that, people change lane. So your vehicle should have some assistance to detect the vehicles which are changing lane suddenly. So there are so many systems like microwave based or short range radar based and millimeter wave systems, etc., which are able to detect the vehicles which are coming very close to you, to the side as well as to the back. You are not able to see to the side or to the back. Intelligent speed assistance. Again, we are coming to this speed business because that is very important. We will see later on why. See, this speed limit 55 is a very common thing in the US. This 55 refers to 55 miles per hour, which is something like 90-95 kilometers per hour in India. So the 55 miles per hour speed limit is very common in the US. And I have driven almost 4,000 kilometers in the US just to see the driving conditions there. And I find that, of course, the infrastructure is excellent and people are very, very conscious of the speed limit. So if they see a speed limit sign, they will adhere to that. That is not at all the case in India. You can see for yourself that whatever be the speed limit, whether it is 60 or 80 or 100, people travel at whatever speed they want, 120, 130, and so on. So the speed limit is very important. And when you are enforcing a speed limit, automatic systems will warn you. When your speed goes beyond the speed limit, it will tell you that you are exceeding the speed limit, you have to reduce the speed. Are you able to see this slide? I am not getting any feedback.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
See, the problem with the webinar is that I am not able to maintain eye contact. I don't know whether people have slept off or they have turned off, isn't it? Or they are taking a break. Anyway, I assume that most of the people are still on. I hope I am not boring everybody. Okay, the point is nighttime driving. Nighttime driving is very, very hazardous, not only to you, but also to the most vulnerable road user, namely the pedestrian. So what happens during night time? A pedestrian is suddenly trained to cross the path. And people say that pedestrians must wear white clothes so that they can be seen. But many people don't bother. So if you are traveling at high speed and you are not able to see the pedestrian, this thermographic camera, it will detect the presence of a live human being and warn you at a big, good enough distance. So it tells you, on the left you see that 106 kilometers per hour is your speed and there is a pedestrian trying to cross. So immediately you reduce your speed. Okay, so this is very important. So as I was mentioning you, there are so many sensors which can see around the vehicle. You can leisurely take a look at this slide later on. Navigation. Of course, now everybody follows GPS. Okay, everybody is mobile. You have smartphones. Your smartphones are having GPS, Google Maps, and so on. And your vehicles are having screens, navigation screens. Of course, Google Maps are very famous. They can take you anywhere. Only problem is on the way you might get stuck into some narrow footpath, paths. And once when I was trying to reach a resort in Karaikal, it took me to the water edge. Luckily, I escaped. But still, navigation systems are very, very useful. So they are also part of intelligent transportation systems. Alcohol interlocks, very important. Now that all the Tasmak shops are open, there are people who are drinking and driving. So the government says drunken driving is bad, but it says please drink as much as you want. So an intelligent vehicle, what it will do is, it will not allow you to drive the vehicle if you are drunk. Okay, so what you have to do is, you have to blow into this alcohol detector and try to switch on the vehicle. So if it will try to sense your BAC, blood alcohol concentration, something like what the police are doing. So the traffic police catch you at 1 o'clock in the morning, and they want to test whether you are drunk. Earlier they used to say, blow into my face, so they will detect whether you are drunk. Now they use, they are able to measure the blood alcohol concentration by making you blow into the meter. So here the vehicle itself will make you blow. So if your alcohol level is beyond the safe limit, you cannot turn on your vehicle. So you have to catch a cab and go. Okay. So this is a safety aspect. Similarly, seat belt. See, there are so many people who are not wearing seat belts. Actually, seat belt is a very, very simple device which will improve your safety level by 3 to 4 times. And once one of my friends was caught in an accident, of course, maybe not his mistake, but what happened was his vehicle went off the road and rolled 2-3 times. But he escaped because he was wearing the seatbelt. Okay. People are so casual, they are not wearing the seatbelt. Now, these modern vehicles, they will not allow you to drive. So, of course, now the vehicle will keep on blinking, light will blink, or it will keep on beeping until you push the seat belt into the receptacle. But there are other vehicles which will not allow you to move the vehicle itself unless you are wearing the seat belt. Okay, so this is a very important point. Of course, there are people who circumvent this problem. You can always put a matchstick into that receptacle to fool the system, but you are fooling yourself. Occupant classification system, this is another important thing. The intelligent vehicle can sense your weight, because there are people who are 100 kg heavy and there are people who are 50 kg light. So in both the cases, the airbag should not exert the same pressure. You might be aware that children are not allowed to sit in the front seat, because an airbag, when it expands, can kill the child because it is expanding with some force. So here it will measure your weight and then automatically adjust the pressure of the airbag so that it is not harming you. Okay. Now this ATMS is a vast topic. All your signal systems, all your signal controls, the loop detectors, vehicle detectors, all kinds of technologies are there. Maybe we'll briefly look at that if time is there. So this is coming under this advanced transportation management system. See, there are thousands of signals. See, our cities are not having that many signals. Maybe metropolitan cities are having a few hundreds, but any city in the world will have thousands of signals, and all the signals are linked. They are all coordinated. They are all linked, interlinked, and then they are controlled from a control center. Okay, so the signal control system will allow you to go in a more efficient manner. I think I'll come back to this later on. You look at the what happens at this intersection. I think you can see that. See, this green vehicle is approaching this intersection and it is not able to see the red vehicle car because that is coming beyond the yellow truck. So if this fellow has not seen that red car, you would have gone ahead and collided with that. Okay. Now, if AVCSS is there, automatic vehicle control system, that will detect him that red car and make him stop. You understand? So because of this, the accident is avoided. So you also have this AVCSS systems to detect the edge of the road. So you see the rightmost figure. This happens especially when you're driving at night and then you are drowsy. So this road is taking a turn, but you are not turning. You are going straight. Then what will happen? You will go and crash into the tree. So now this AVCSS, what it will do is, it is monitoring the edge delineation line, and it knows that the line is turning, so it will automatically warn you or even turn the vehicle to save you. Now this obstacle detection or pedestrian detection is another important thing. You just watch this. So you see that this fellow is bending down to pick up something he has dropped, and that is being seen by the driver because of the flashing light. You just observe it once more. See, this is a common problem. For example, you might have read in the news or something that these vans which are carrying children, no? So the children get down from the van and then cross the vehicle. So they may cross the vehicle in front, and this driver is not able to see the child. Or sometimes what happens is the child is crossing behind, and this fellow is reversing. So there are many accidents, many deaths occurring. So here in the video, you see that the fellow is bending down, and that obstruction is being detected and then flashed on the driver's screen. So the driver knows that there is somebody behind the wheel. Okay, so she will not move the vehicle. Okay, so these are all systems, part of the intelligent transportation systems. Now the ITS has been implemented in a big way in Singapore. If you consider Singapore, actually it is a country, it is a state, it's a city-state. The size of Singapore is that of Chennai, but it is having 8 expressways running inside Singapore itself, and all those expressways are controlled by ITS, and the junctions are controlled by ITS. So we will just look at some of the features to see whether these features can be applied to Indian conditions. For example, TTD. See, these are all very simple technologies. Travel time display. At many places, you will notice the timing being shown. So when you are following along an expressway, it tells you that it takes 10 minutes to go reach some place, 21 minutes to reach some place. Supposing you are trying to go to the airport, you have to catch a flight, and this display will tell you, okay, airport 45 minutes. So you are running short of time. So you will be warned, and you can take another detour which might take you to the airport in 20 minutes. So this detour may be longer, but there is no traffic in that. You understand? So these TTDs are updated in real time. So it measures the traffic along the route and keeps updating this time. So if there is some jam, traffic jam or congestion on the route, it will increase the travel time and show you. And you can take an alternate route which will get you to the destination in a quicker time. Okay. Now junction control. There are hundreds of junctions which are managed by the so-called PTZ cameras, no? Pan, tilt, zoom. You can use a joystick and move this camera and then see what is happening. See, they have a control center from where they can watch these junctions and see whether there is any congestion at a junction or an accident which has occurred and take action immediately. ERP is a very, very important point. It is a revolutionary concept. Okay, road pricing. Now, what do you mean by road pricing? See, for example, when we travel on our expressways, we have to pay toll. But what happens inside the city? I mean, inside the city, you cannot have toll booths, isn't it? You cannot make a vehicle wait and then pay the toll booth. There will be a huge queue. So they have this ERP system. So when you are going into the heart of the city, for example, Georgetown area, the Secretariat area in Chennai, you are going into the CBD, Central Business District, and maybe some smart city solutions are there to improve the CBD. Basically, what happens is CBD is always congested. So during the peak hour, if you're going into the Central Business District, automatically your vehicle sensor will be detected, and it will mark your vehicle as entering the city at this time, and when you're exiting the CBD area, it will again mark that time and subtract that and see whether you have been inside the city center for half an hour, 1 hour, 1.5 hours, and charge you that price. Okay. Let us say it's charging you 100 rupees per hour, maybe small, low amount. But the point is, every day you go into the Georgetown area for half an hour or 1 hour, you pay 50 or 100 rupees. So you start wondering why you should waste that money. If you go during off-peak hour, when the ERP system is not in operation, you don't pay that money. So you can see in the screen that it says ERP in operation. Okay, so people will go during off-peak hours. You understand? Why everybody should go at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the evening. So you reschedule your travel to maybe 8 o'clock in the morning or to 3 o'clock in the afternoon when ERP is not in operation. So your peak see, our congestion problem is a peaking problem. So the peak is getting flattened. Okay. So these are again electronic solutions, and they have integrated fare system. This is a beautiful concept. In fact, Singapore is having MRT, it is having LRT, and it's also having bus system. So they have, you have the same card, smart card. Of course, India is also getting its own smart card, no? Mobility, urban mobility, U-mobile card, and so on. So the point is, you can use this card in any of the multimodal systems. So actually, multimodal transfer is a part of smart cities. So you are encouraged to use the public transport and also to shift from one mode to another. Supposing you are traveling inside city, you can use the metro, you can use the bus, or you can use a two-wheeler. So many people, because of the convenience, they use a two-wheeler. Instead, if you have this kind of an integrated card, you take a bus to the Coimbatore or whatever is the nearest metro station and get into the metro and use the same card to travel to the airport. Now the point is, because you are using public transport and you are making a transfer, it will give you some incentive back. Cashback is given to you. So large people use that, large number of people use that. So instead of using their own private transportation system, they use the public. Okay. So this is also part of the ITS solution. See, this slide is very difficult to see. Maybe later on, I'm sure given the PDF file to the organizers, they will share this with you. We just take a look at all the components. There are so many components of these smart cities which are listed all over the place. Like for example, incident response, we look into that, variable message signs, bike counter, parking restriction, transit signal priority. So a lot of options are there, a lot of technologies which can be applied to the smart cities. So you can leisurely take a look at this. Please take a look at this video. Are you able to see the video?
Yes,
Dr. Parthiban?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Just observe this video. I think many of you would have had a heavy lunch. Unfortunately, organizers could not give you the lunch. So you have had lunch everywhere, anywhere you are living. So you're looking at this video. What does it say? Can anybody tell me what this video refers to? I can say that it is from a movie. Do you know which movie it is? So it's just a wake-up call. People are sleeping, no? So I thought I'll show you a movie to wake you up. So let me see. It's a Hollywood movie, not an Indian movie. Can you recognize this movie? Do you know the significance of this screen?
speed. Sure.
Speed, great. Okay, so you see the lovely Sandra Bullock traveling in that bus.
Participants are.
Okay, good. So the point is speed. Okay, that was the name of that 94 classic, Speed. 1984 classic. So what is the significance of speed? So in that movie, referring to that movie, that speedometer is shown. So if you go below that 40 miles per hour speed, there will be a bomb which is strapped to the underside of that bus and it will blow up the bus and kill everybody. So that fellow is forced to drive at a speed above 40 and this hero gets onto the bus, jumps onto the bus and then he defuses the bomb and all that. No? It's a very good movie, you can watch it. Now the point is, what is the significance of this to transportation engineering? I don't know, somehow people have a need for speed. Okay, everybody wants to drive at a very high speed. People don't realize that almost 1/6 of the fatalities are due to speed. Okay, as they say, no, the speed that thrills is the speed that kills. People don't realize that. They travel at, they don't have any idea about the speed limits, which the road is designed, the geometric design of the road, or in the case of urban roads, the intersections, or the other dangers, or the other traffic which may enter from intersections, or bicyclists, or pedestrians. People just don't bother. So the point is, speed management is the key. just by reducing the speed by 5 kilometers per hour, 5%, you can reduce the fatal crashes by 20%. See, look at the speed limits. It says 50 kilometers per hour for vehicle occupants. You are wearing seat belt, but still, if the speed is 50 kilometers per hour or 70 kilometers per hour in head-to-head collisions. Now, when you say 70 kilometers per hour, it is both the vehicles together. You understand? So, if both the vehicles are traveling at above 35, so if a vehicle is traveling at 35, another vehicle is traveling at 35 kilometers per hour, so the net speed is, the resultant speed is 70 kilometers per hour, relative speed, and you will die. So, it is not the 100 kilometers per hour or 110 kilometers per hour which kills. Any speed which is not safe is able to kill you. So, you must maintain the speed, but how to manage the speed? That is the challenge. Okay, there are a lot of techniques for this, and any urban management or transport management needs this kind of speed management inside the city. But there is also modern techniques. So I'll show you a video. You can watch this video first. This is a video. Sorry. Can you see this video?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Just observe. It will play again. See, this car is approaching. There is a screen to the left, and that screen is picking up your speed and indicating. Okay. You see that? So when the vehicle is approaching that, it is able to automatically measure the speed. So actually that was a video I shot in the approach to Washington, DC, the capital of the US. So there the speed limits are very, very low. They are as low as 40 kilometers per hour, or 30 miles per hour, or even sometimes 20 miles per hour. So if there will be a flash, and you know that you have been filmed, okay? So it will immediately catch your number plate and then charge you if you are above the speed limit. So this is an urban speed management project. We had a collaborative project with IIT Madras under the Center of Excellence. So where we devised a system of measuring the speed and displaying it, okay? See, there is no point in recording your speed and penalizing you. There are systems now which can measure your speed, catch your number plate, and then send you directly the challan. Like they have no red light jumping systems. Okay, red light violating cameras are there. Similar to that, but what we want to do is we want to use a variable design and display the speed. It should say, okay, 50 kilometers. You are traveling at 50 kilometers per hour or 60 kilometers per hour, whereas the speed limit is 40. And if possible, display the vehicle number. And if you are able to scan into the database and display the name and says Moses, you are traveling at 50 kilometers per hour, immediately I'll wake up. No, I'll be aware that somebody is watching me and maybe I'm going to be caught. Okay, so automatically reduce the speed. So this is the kind of technology which is being tried out. So they have these ANPR systems where the number plate can be captured and then immediately recognized. Of course, we have our own problems, especially with Indian number plates, you know, isn't it? There are people who write Tamil Nadu instead of TN, and there are also people who write in Devanagari script, you know, in Hindi or in Tamil numbers. So there are a lot of problems, and also non-standard number plates. But if the number plate is standardized, we should be able to decipher the number and then catch the fellow who is exceeding the speed limit. Okay. And in the meantime, we should also describe that problem to him. So variable message signs are used, the so-called VMS. Again, we look at VMS in another context. You also have these ITS solutions in APTS, Advanced Public Transport. So you can give dynamic information on schedules and so on. For example, you can have displays inside the bus. So this is very common in the US. In India also, I think some buses are showing you what is the next stop. So you know that next stop is coming. See, this is very famous. For example, earlier when I used to travel from Chennai to Warangal by GT or something, if you travel, Warangal comes at 3 o'clock in the morning. So how do you know that Warangal is approaching? You have to keep awake. It is very, very painful to sit awake and then not miss your station. Similarly, people traveling from, let's say, Chennai to Trichy, supposing there are some people who want to get down at Srirangam, they don't know when Srirangam is coming. And you know that there is Vaigai Express or Pallavan Express, it will stop for only 1 minute. So what these fellows do is they will get out of their seats at Ariyalur, and then they will be standing by the doorway for 1 hour. So instead, just 5 minutes before the station, if it shows, okay, Srirangam, next 5 minutes, you can peacefully get up and go. I mean, these are all very simple technologies, but vehicle tracking, train tracking, all these technologies are there in ITS. And MTC is introducing this on, for example, 18G. They have a joint project with IIT Madras. See, they have this special buses, for example, AC buses, which will charge a higher fare, let's say 20 bucks. But you don't mind traveling in a pay 20 bucks for that, because you can travel in an AC bus and reach your destination in a cool environment. But the problem is, when you come to the bus stop, you don't know whether when the next bus is arriving. Okay. Supposing you wait for the bus and the next bus is going to come after 20 minutes and you're late for your meeting, you will catch an auto or a taxi and go. But the problem is, if you catch an auto or a taxi, within 1 minute the bus will arrive. So you pay 50 bucks or 100 bucks for the auto or a taxi, whereas you would have paid only 20 bucks for the bus. So what IIT Madras has done is to put GPS tracking equipment on the buses, and it will display at the bus stop when the next bus is going to arrive. I mean, it's a very simple concept, but if you can implement that, so much of time and effort can be saved, isn't it? Money also for the traveling public. Okay, so this can be extended to other bus stops also. In the US, if you see, all bus stops will have some display, and it will tell you when the next bus is going to arrive. Fine. Parking. See, parking has become a nightmare in our cities. Our cities, you know, whatever be the city you are coming from, people are just indiscriminately parking on the road. And mind you, the road infrastructure is totally different. It is maybe DBM, BC and all that, and designed for moving 10 MSA or 20 MSA, isn't it? Heavy vehicles. So you are simply using that space for parking and stationary vehicle, and also it reduces the capacity. So you need to have some parking management system. We did a study at Trichy to solve a parking management problem near the Main Guard Gate, which is the city center. So there are some parking lots around the Main Guard Gate area, but the problem is you don't know whether parking is available or not. See, for example, on this screen, if you notice, to the right, you have the Singaratop parking lot. Okay, where something like 30-40 vehicles can be parked. But the problem is it will always be full. So when you are approaching the Main Guard Gate area, you will be going along this arrows, no? And you'll be going there, and after you have gone all the way inside, you find that there is no space. So you have to come back and go to, say, some other problem like Amaravati parking lot or whatever. So instead, you can notice these BMS signs, no? These signboards in 4 locations, which will display the availability of parking at each of these parking lots. So when you are approaching the city center, if you know that there is parking space there, you will go in. Otherwise, you will go to an alternate parking solution. You understand? So thereby, you can save your problem as well as reduce the congestion on the city streets. Okay. You have incident management systems. You just observe this. The challenge with an incident is to immediately act. So if you are seeing an incident, it may be a simple accident like this, maybe a breakdown of a vehicle, or it can be an incident like this. Okay. Now these are very common in the US because there are so many cars which are coming at very high speed, and two vehicles collide with each other. The other vehicles are not aware of it. They will also come and join. It's called as a pileup or a multi-vehicle accident. So how to avoid this? When an incident occurs, when two vehicles are involved in a very minor accident, you must immediately be notified of that accident so that you can remove the vehicles and avoid this kind of multiple accidents. So you need to have an incident management system. Actually, this was a student project done here at NIT. What is shown on the screen is actually a map of Trichy, and the red dots are indicating the access points. See, there are various highways, for example, NH81, NH45, NH67 and all entering NH210 from Karaikudi. They are all entering the city. So when they are entering into the outskirts of the city, there can be an incident management board which informs about some accident which occurs. See, for example, these are the entry points from Chennai, from Tanjore, from Madurai, from Ramnad and so on. So look at this screen. Supposing you are coming from you are coming from Chennai and you want to go to the Tiruchirappalli junction. So normally you will be taking the bypass road and reaching the junction in very small time, maybe 10 to 15 minutes. But there is also an alternate path inside the city. You have to go through the main guard gate area, the market area, and Palakarai and all that. It is very, very congested, and it will take you at least half an hour. So everybody will prefer the outer road. Now the problem is, supposing an accident happens at the outer road, the bypass road, and you are not aware of that accident, you will come and get caught in the jam, maybe for 1 hour, 2 hours. You are caught in the jam. Now, if an accident occurs and if you are informed about it right at the top, before you can enter the city, you will take the interior road and you will be delayed by congestion, but definitely by only 10 to 15 minutes, not 2 to 3 hours. Okay. So this is a simple incident management system which can be used. Again, variable message signs are used for this, where they give you information. See, you also would have seen these variable message signs on our expressways. Only thing is they give you only static messages like wear your seat belt. Heavy vehicles always drive on the left, but they never do that. Okay, heavy vehicles don't use first lane, but they always drive on the first lane. That's different. These variable message signs should give you dynamic messages. Okay, then only they will be useful. Because we have our own problem with signboards. This is actually a signboard on the National Highway approaching Kottayam. Now you try to figure out what is the distance to Kottayam and which route you have to take. Okay, so when you have these kind of confusing signs, I don't know why how we can talk about VMS. Okay, traffic signal control. I was talking about traffic signal. No? When you're having a lot of signals, like I said, thousands of signals in a city, they can be coordinated, they can be controlled and managed from a common location. So you just take one arterial road, let's say Anna Salai. Supposing you're traveling from Tambaram to Secretariat, I'm sure there are something like 30 signals along Anna Salai. Supposing it is your bad day, okay, you got up on the wrong side of the bed and you are driving your car, and at every signal when you come, the signal is red. So at every signal you are delayed for 1 minute, 1.5 minutes, like that. So what's the total delay? Total delay runs to 40 to 45 minutes. Okay. Now look at the alternate strategy. First signal you get a green. Maybe you are caught there, but you get the green. Now when you come to the second signal, it is also green. So you go through that. Third signal, that is also green. Go through that. Fourth signal is also green. So the entire corridor is having what is known as a green wave. Okay, you can simply go through the corridor. That is not a signal coordination. So this simple strategy of maintaining the signal cycle time. Of course, people who learn traffic engineering will know about this. So you can do the offset optimization or even within cycle optimization there are a lot of software packages available which can coordinate the signals, and you also have adaptive signal controlling, whereby you can measure the traffic volume and then coordinate. And it's not only the one route but also the entire network, entire cross streets can also be coordinated. Okay, most of the advanced countries are following this kind of a system, including Singapore. I think that is self-evident, whatever I said. And another smart addition to the signal system is the EVSP, emergency vehicle. See, many times you see that an ambulance arrives at a signal and it is getting caught in the traffic, and it is flashing, and then it is not able to get into the clear the signal system. Okay, so what we can do is we can detect the emergency vehicle and then give it some preference. So a warning signal will be transmitted. So there will be a receiver and the signal controller, and that signal controller will preempt the signal phase. So here it doesn't mean that it will stop other traffic and then allow only the ambulance to go. What will happen is, you know about the signal, isn't it? Supposing you are coming and getting caught in a signal, the signal will work in a cyclic fashion. So when it is shown green to all the other phases, it will come to your face. Now, when ambulance comes to that signal, immediately green will be given to that phase. So all the vehicles in that lake will get cleared along with the ambulance. Then signal will go back to normal operation. Okay. So this kind of a strategy can be adopted. I was talking about red light violation. Now, these are all cameras which are available in all intersections. So if you are jumping a red light, supposing the signal is red and then you are going through that, your number plate will be caught by the ANPR, and an automatic challan, fine or whatever will be issued by the system. So actually Chennai is having its own management system, and we also have TRMS in Trichy, where they have installed these PTZ cameras at key locations like this, at junctions. And they also have a database where all the vehicular data is available. Just by scanning the vehicle's number plate, you can get the entire information. And they also have the handheld terminals given to the traffic police, which are integrated to the system. And they have 30 patrol vehicles which are fitted with GPS, so that they can be directed to the incident spot immediately. So ultimately, they may have traffic management via satellite link, and instead of having vehicles which are, you have the so-called patrol vehicles, you may have helicopters. Okay, that is the stage of our city traffic. We may have to go for that. Okay, coming to the sustainable part, we should also look at the green outcome. Okay, so vehicles, like I mentioned in the beginning, vehicles are notoriously polluting, and then they are giving rise to a lot of issues in the air pollution aspect and environmental degradation and whatnot. But sustainable transportation means the transportation has to be eco-friendly. So now people are talking about green transportation. What exactly is green transportation? You need to have effective use of the resources, and you do demand management, like I was talking about ERP. So by controlling the number of vehicles which are entering into the city, you can reduce the pollutant levels inside the city. Why should people make unnecessary travel? Just hang on. So actually, now people are talking about corona's side effects. Okay. Now, due to Corona, the number of accidents has come down because transport is not there, no traffic is not there, and due to Corona, you also have a reduction in emitted pollution levels. Okay, so these are all some side effects. Now only people are realizing that the vehicles are polluting to such a great extent. Okay, so there are different vehicle technologies which can be used, alternative technologies to have green vehicles, and it is not only the fossil fuel consuming vehicles like your private transport, but you should also have alternate modes of transport. We look at alternate modes of transport which are energy efficient as well as economical as well as environmentally friendly. Pedestrians, actually, if you take a city, in fact, the smart city is one which should give prime importance to the pedestrians. And they say a pedestrian is the king of the city, but our cities, you see, pedestrians are not able to walk. People talk about walkability. All our cities are they walk friendly? We cannot, because the sidewalks are always crowded, they are encroached upon, and you also have political parties which are putting up banners, okay, and preventing people from walking onto the road and on the sidewalk. So if you are not walking on the sidewalk, you have to walk on the road. Then what happens? You are likely to get killed, or it is going to reduce the capacity of the road. And walking is also good by way of exercise, and it is energy efficient and so on. So walkability is key. So there are, people have become conscious of this fact, and they are redesigning their cities. Actually, we keep designing our cities for the powered vehicles, two-wheelers. Why we should do that? We should in fact reorient our cities towards walk and then the cycling modes. Okay, so we have to ensure good pedestrian facilities, and then security, and then comfort, and manage the distances. Okay, so walkability is comprising all these aspects. Of course, you are also aware that the pedestrians along with the cyclists are the VRUs, most vulnerable road users. So we need to have segregation. So how to segregate the traffic? So we need to have special facility like zebra crossing, pelican crossing, over bridges, etc. For example, raised crosswalks. This is something you see, for example, in Bangalore, you will notice this. So instead of having a normal zebra crossing, you have a raised zebra crossing, so that the vehicles will automatically reduce the speed when they approach them. Okay. You also have foot over bridge, like for example in Mumbai, you have over bridges with escalators, so that elderly people who are finding it difficult to climb the stairs can make use of the walkways. So you also have walkways which are not only crossing the streets but also going on the streets. So these are exclusively for walking. So you have this in Mumbai, in Bangalore, and other places, and also have this pelican and toucan crossings. Okay, this pelican and toucan are birds, as you are aware. Because we are talking about zebra, which is an animal, people have started talking about pelicans and toucans. So pelican is a light actuated crossing. So you can go and register your request to cross by pressing the button, and it will give you a green face. Not immediately. What will happen is, next time the face is coming to you, it will give you a green. See, otherwise, if there is no request pending, it will not give green to the pedestrians. Vehicles will continue to go. Okay. So these kind of crossings are very efficient. Now, what about bicycle? So this is a very, very politically significant picture, because it seems the Holland PM uses the bicycle, but you cannot imagine that in India, whether it is a PM or the CM, they go in a motorcade. So if you're going in a motorcade, you're not only stopping the vehicles, you're also contributing to the environmental degradation, and you're causing delays to the other traffic. Okay, but if you use a bicycle, which they say is the most efficient form, it may be surprising to you. They say it consumes only 10 power 9 joules per kilometer, and surprisingly, bicycle is more efficient than walking. You spend less energy for the given kilometer by bicycling, so it's a good form of energy efficiency as well as exercise. But the problem is, you need to have cycle tracks. Okay, So if you are able to assure cycle tracks, and again cycle tracks are part of smart cities, you can have alternate vehicles and hence greening of the transport sector. So this is a typical situation where you have a dedicated cycle track where parking is not there, only vehicles are traveling, and you have a divider. You see a barrier which is dividing the vehicles from the cycles, and again another barrier beyond which you have the cycle, you have the footpath where you can walk. Okay, this is a well-designed city street, obviously from a developed country. Even if you have parking, you can have a cycle track. And now you have the protection of the parked vehicles, so you don't need any barrier. But the point is, you need to have separation. So assured safety is there. You can just bike along the road. This is very, very difficult to manage in our cities. You see, look at the width of this road. This is from an advanced country where you have so much of width that you can have 6 lanes of traffic for powered vehicles. Then you have a raised curb, then cycle track, again footpath, and so on. So in fact, they even have dedicated tracks, cycle tracks. You can go from your house to your office without having to cross any vehicular traffic. Okay, so assuring you of safety as well as efficiency, and it gives you exercise as well. Bicycle lanes, if they are there on the road, they should be colored differently. See, this is another revolutionary concept. Just think about that. No, you can take your bicycle through steps because of the track. You can just wheel your bicycle along the track, and you also have signals. So this countdown signal will tell you that you have to wait for 19 seconds for the green. So you will wait and then cross when it is safe to cross. You also have actuators. You press the button so that next time the signal is coming to you, it will be shown green. Bike station. This is a revolutionary concept. You might have read recently in the papers or seen on TV that these kind of bike stations are going to come to Chennai. They are already there. So it is very common to use. I have seen that tourists simply take a bike and go wherever they want. They look at the monuments, and then they leave the bicycle in some other place, another station. So when they reach that destination, for whatever period they use, like 1 hour, 2 hours, they will be charged $5, $10. They pay. Okay. So it is very, very effectively used, and this concept is coming to India also. High occupancy vehicles. So these are very important. See, we are saying that we should encourage public transport. Why? Because public transport can move 50 vehicles, 50 people, 60 people in the case of buses, or in the case of metros, you can even move hundreds of people. And share autos can move tens of people. No, I've seen autos carrying 10 people. Now they have these HOV lanes where minimum of 4 people will travel. So if there are 4 people in your car, you are allowed to go on the HOV lane. You see that all the other lanes, I've seen again in the US that 4 or 5 lanes of traffic will be there, all very, very heavily packed. But HOV lane will be free. Because in the US, people travel alone. So there will be only single owner driven cars. So actually in the US, they have this 1+ system. They don't even insist on 4 people. Even if 2 people are there in the car, it becomes a high occupancy vehicle. So you can travel in that HOV lane and save a lot of time. Okay. Now what about our definition of HOV? We also have our high occupancy vehicle. You can try to count the number of passengers on this high occupancy vehicle. I don't know how to manage this kind of high occupancy vehicles. Then bus priority. See, when you are giving importance to bus, we should also give some advantage to bus. So for example, exclusive bus lanes. These are there in, for example, Singapore and UK and many of the advanced countries. So you have only bus only lanes. Again, you see there on the left side that there is heavy congestion in the traffic and buses are moving freely. So if this happens all the time, people will not take their cars into the city. Okay, you have the concept of the fringe terminals where you can park your car in the fringes of the city. Then you take a bus to the city center. Buses are free to go. Okay, you can have exclusive bus lanes, or these bus lanes can be even contra-flow. Okay, what do you mean by a contra-flow bus lane? See, in many places they have the so-called one-way streets, But the one-way streets allow the buses to come in the opposite direction. You can see on the right-hand side, the traffic is going in the opposite direction, buses are traveling in the other direction. Okay, so by doing this, they are able to get an advantage and reach the destination faster. Again, you are able to save time, and hence we are giving an advantage to the buses. Signal preemption. So, like we have the emergency vehicle signal preemption, the bus, when it arrives at the signal, it will emit a radiation, and that will be detected by the signal controller, and that will give green to that. Of course, not immediately, but it will wait for the instead of waiting for a signal green to come to that, it will immediately get a green. But only problem in our cities is that there are buses on all the legs. So how to give priority to the buses on which leg? Whether maybe you should give priority to the leg which is having more buses, something like that. But one of my students was also doing a project on signal preemption of buses. Ultimately, bus only streets. This is actually a double-decker bus in UK, in London, which is moving on only bus only streets. See, there are streets where people will be walking or using the bicycle, or only buses. No vehicle traffic will be allowed. So again, you are giving advantage to the public transport. Finally, we come to the electric vehicles. Again, many of you are aware of it that the future belongs to the EVs, and a lot of people are talking about it. Now, the EVs are using renewable technology. See, instead of wasting fuel by guzzling the fossil fuels, and the people say that in another 30-40 years we will run out of fuel, then what is going to happen? So, if you are able to produce power using hydroelectric, geothermal, solar power, and so on, that power can be used to charge the electric vehicles and then make them move. So, what is predicted is that in 8 years, all the petrol diesel vehicles will vanish. That is because maintenance is zero. Just think about this. This Tesla is a very famous company which is marketing electric vehicles. Tesla model is having only 18 moving parts, but your car is having 2000 parts. It says IC engine only. See, only the IC engine is having 2000 parts. Other components are also there. So, maintenance is very, very heavy. We have to keep on maintaining every 5,000 kilometers or 10,000 kilometers. But Tesla is giving you infinite mile warranty. You can drive your car to the moon and back, like 10 million kilometers. Just think about that. Our cars are scrapped after 1 million kilometers, but Tesla can be driven for 10 or 20 million kilometers. Just think about that. Okay. So this is improving the efficiency as well as the reducing the dependence on the fossil fuels. Okay. So EVs will be cheaper, and you also have self-driving EVs. Ultimately, we'll come to that. You can have self-driving cars. So when you have a self-driving car, that can be an electric vehicle also. It will drive itself, so you don't have to have the hassle of driving or then finding parking space and so on. So ultimately, they say all new cars will be electric cars, and gradually your old vehicles will be phased out. And look at that line. It says you have to pay to dispose of old vehicles. See, now you can sell your old vehicle and get 1 or 2 lakhs. That is not the case now. In the future, you have to pay 1 lakh for the government to take back your vehicle. Just think about that. So that is the future to which we are moving, and electric vehicles are going to make that happen. Just a news item which came, because recently we have introduced e-rickshaws in NIT. You can take a look at this. Are you able to see the video?
Yes, sir.
Are you able to?
Yes, sir.
So I hope you are able to see that. So ultimately, you also have hybrid cars. Now these hybrid cars can run on they have batteries which can be charged by while braking. So they are able to save the energy, and so the greenhouse emissions are low, and so on. Only issue is with battery technology. So battery technologies are improving all the time. Similarly, you can also think of green trains and green buses. So these are also part of the green initiative. You have sustainable technologies. Delhi is already having CNG powered buses, so which are having very low emissions. So ultimately, what we are aiming for is energy efficient transportation, which is also saving the environment and then making it sustainable and leaving a clean and bright future to our children. So ultimately, what is the future? See, what we have been seeing so far is that the driver is the chief cause of the accidents. So, if you can eliminate the driver, then accidents can also be reduced, isn't it? It's a revolutionary concept. So, next time your car will drive you to the office and you can read the newspaper or a book while driving the car. Of course, this futuristic, but you already have the Google self-driving car. You might have seen in the news. So people are testing all kinds of alternatives. As of now, for parking systems, they are going to use these self-driving cars. I'll show you a video from Volkswagen. Are you able to see this? Can you see the video? Mr. Parthiban?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So this guy gets down from his car, like in the old MGR movies, no? MGR gets down from the horse and then says, okay, go and park yourself. So you see the wheel which is rotating. So this car will do a reverse parallel parking, which is the most difficult maneuver. Those of you who drive will know that reverse parallel parking is very, very difficult. So it uses the sensors to find the optimum path and squeezes into the narrow gap. You see that it comes almost to the point of collision and then goes back and parks itself perfectly. If you look closely, you can see the sensors around the periphery of the car. I'll play it again. So you see the steering wheel turning by itself. And the light is also flashing. And you see some small sensors mounted on the side of the car as well as the front of the car, which will measure the clearances. it comes almost to the point of pollution. You see this to the side, you have the sensor. Okay, to summarize, you have a very wide range of ITS technologies which are already there in the developed countries, and we can try to implement them, some of them. Because we cannot implement all of them from the techno-economic feasibility. We have resource constraints, but whatever can be gainfully employed in India, we have to implement, and especially in our cities. So since there is so much of money being pumped into the smart cities programs, we can try to make the transportation also smart, and we have to make our cities as well as our highways not only smart but also safe. That is the key, and I wish you all the best in the very future. But at the same time, we should avoid an overkill of this nature. There is actually a traffic signal existing somewhere in the US, but you really cannot make out which is green, which is red. So we should not go in for very, very complicated technologies, but whatever is feasible, let us implement and adopt. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
And
Now,
participants, now you can post your questions in chat box. First question from Kaushik, sir.
Yeah, tell me.
What is the cost for developing the smart transportation?
So that's a very, very, very important question, because we find that the ITS technology is very, very expensive. They will be running into maybe 1 lakh crores, shall we say. So recently the finance minister announced a 20 lakh crore package. So it will be in lakhs of crores. But some components of this technology, for example, smart parking, okay, or electric vehicles. See, these kind of technologies will be implementable in hundreds of crores. So the point is you have to compare the cost with the benefit. Now benefit is by way of efficiency as well as safety. Safety in the sense how many lives you can save. Supposing we can save 50 lives, what is the cost of one life? Now in Corona they say any health worker who dies will be given 50 lakhs. So that means the worth of one life is 50 lakhs, isn't it? Or if he is a very high ranking individual, high earning capacity, let us say his worth is 1 crore. So in 1 year, if you can save 50 lives, 50 crores can be saved. So that can be the trade-off against the cost of implementation. Okay. So cost has to be managed with benefits, and we have to adopt only the technologies which are cost effective, definitely.
Thank you, sir. And next question from Dr. G. Shanti. To reduce CO2 emission by our vehicles, is there any step taken by our government other than green transport?
Other than?
Green transport.
See, green transport is the best because electric vehicles, you might have already seen, a lot of e-bikes are there. Electric cars are yet to come in a big way. They have just been introduced, but they are very expensive. So what the government should do is it should give subsidies to the electric vehicles. That is one thing. And one point is encouraging public transport. So I was talking about that extensively. So you just think about this. Let us say one person is traveling in a scooter, or 2 or 3 people are going in a car. Okay. So maybe if 60, 70 people have to go, they have to use 40, 30 vehicles. So instead, these 60 people, if they go in a bus, only one vehicle is used. So that consumes minimum energy and then emits minimum pollutants. So by doing this, we can reduce the CO2 emission. Okay, so it's an indirect way of doing that. So that's why we have to encourage public transport. And if you look at metros are running on electricity, isn't it? So that is non-polluting. That is even better than buses. So that's why most of our cities are going in for metros. Okay, so that is a way of reducing the carbon emissions.
Thank you, sir. Our next question from Grayson. Among the European countries, which one is good in smart transport and what system they are implementing?
I would say maybe UK, because UK is having the buses, and I was showing most of the examples I showed, no, for bus transport are from the UK, and then there they have the tube rail system, no, which is very efficient. So they have encouraged public transport to a great extent, and most of the European countries they have cycle tracks. Okay, by having cycle tracks, you might even see it may look funny, but the point is people wearing full suit, no, coat and suit, they will be cycling. They'll be carrying their laptop at the back, and then they will be cycling. It's a common sight in the European countries. Okay, so that is a way to go. Even in India, you might see some IT employees. No, they are going. Maybe they are wearing shorts and then they are traveling by bicycles. But if you encourage actively bicycle use, even by the workers, definitely it will be useful. Again, that is part of the smart city solutions.
Thank you, sir. And next question from Madhusudana Reddy. Sir, we are using intelligent systems with GPS and other systems, educating people is necessary. So, how far we can implement those systems in a developing country like India?
You're talking about navigation systems or educating the people generally? What does he mean? What does he want to know? He's talking about GPS, no? GPS
You
systems.
mentioned one. He didn't mention.
You want to know about educating the people, sir.
No, that is very important. So sensitizing, you see, one thing is training the trainers. So I've been giving this kind of lectures to various fora, to the FDPs or to the college students and so on. So they are the future educators, no? Not only the students, but also the faculty who attend these programs. They will go and pass on the idea to the people. So, and they are also able to see, even now the media is very, very conscious. Media is talking about global warming, and then they are talking about smart transport. You see a lot of articles coming, no? A lot of, and also you have the Loss Prevention Association and other associations which are running their these things, slideshows or commercials, where they are trying to educate the general public. Education is very important. So by making people aware of these alternatives, now people are going in for solar rooftop systems, isn't it? Anybody who is constructing a new house tries to put a solar panel on his top. Okay. So similarly, people are aware of these e-bikes, e-cars, and so on. So that awareness is slowly spreading. So when more and more people switch to this kind of green technologies, the environment will become better, no doubt.
Thank you, sir. And next question from Sudhir. What are challenges for in India? Any case study example of ITS you wish to mention?
ITS, my feeling is we must have ITS technologies for signal control. Okay, so many of these in Mumbai, for example, they're trying to coordinate signals. I think Bangalore is also trying to coordinate signals. For example, I don't know, those of you who have traveled on the elevated expressway, IT corridor, would have seen that they are enforcing the speed limit. So they have the speed limit cameras, and any vehicle which is overspeeding is caught, and then fine is charged. Okay, so this kind of speed management systems, then smart parking systems, signal control systems, where you are coordinating the signals and improving the efficiency of the signaling system. So all these things can be easily implemented within the available resources. But the advanced countries have gone to what are called as IVHS systems, Intelligent Vehicle Highway Systems, where they are embedding sensors on the road, and then they have roadside systems, and they have very, very complicated, very high cost systems. We need not go in for those systems, okay? But we must implement these low-cost technologies which will improve not only the efficiency of the transport system, but also the safety, okay? So, for example, making seatbelt mandatory. Like now they say, I mean, somebody was jovially remarking, whatever we could not implement in 100 years was done by Corona, in one day, isn't it? So when they brought in the lockdown, everybody stopped using vehicles. Fine. So we need, and because the lockdown rules are very, very strict, people are following it. They say mask is compulsory, so people are wearing the mask. Now, people also should realize is that seat belts are compulsory. Seat belts are mandatory. They will start wearing the seat belt, isn't it? So by educating the people and by just implementing simple ideas, we can improve the safety of the system.
Thank you, sir. And next question from Swapna Sarita. How transport structure can be designed for different modes of vehicles in the core areas of Indian cities where the streets are very narrow, having no scope of expansion?
Yeah, definitely, it's a good question because again we are talking about smart cities. So it's not only the metropolitan cities but also tier 2 cities. For example, Trichy. See, in Trichy they thought of having they cannot have a metro. Most of us tier 2 cities it's very difficult to implement metro, so they can go for LRT, light rail transit. Okay, so where even narrow streets you can have overhead lines which can be beams on which these small light vehicles can move. Of course, the LRT was implemented in Mumbai. That was not very successful. It ran into problems. But I'm sure they can implement in tier 2 cities and try to make it more efficient. So that is for travel into the city. And as I mentioned, very simple concepts like fringe terminals. Okay, there are a lot of people living in these suburban areas because the land cost is very high inside the city. You cannot afford to buy a house or even pay the rent inside the city center. So people are living 10 to 15 kilometers away, and they are commuting to the city by their vehicles. So you look at Bangalore; it has become a nightmare. Traffic is nightmare. You cannot just to cross 2 or 3 kilometers. It takes a half an hour. Okay, it is really a nightmare. Anybody commuting from home to office will need minimum 2 hours. Sometimes it even goes to 3 hours. It's ridiculous. So what you do is you live outside, maybe use a car, park it in the peripheral area, okay, what are called the fringe terminals, and take an LRT system or even a bus system inside the city. Inside the city, allow only buses. Simple, isn't it? So by doing that, and city center is there for pedestrians and for cyclists, okay, not for cars. So we are allowing the cars inside and then saying there is no space for the cars to move. You have to widen the city roads; they are narrow. Don't do all that. Then parking of these cars. Where is the space for parking? So you go for multi-story parking lots, making it very expensive. Where you have to pay 100 rupees, 200 rupees for parking. Fine. You leave the vehicle in the periphery, travel inside using public transport. That is the only solution for our cities.
Thank you, sir. And next question from Srinivasa Murthy. What is the highest standard or code for green transportation?
For ATS.
What is the highest standard or code for green transportation?
No, we are still developing now. The codification is yet to be done. So actually ITS and then there's the e-vehicles, green transport, all these things need coding like IRC codes or IS codes. So this is something which has to be done. Maybe it will be done shortly by the government.
Thank you, sir. And next question from Petal Rahul Kumar. And as we all know that we have already shortage of electricity throughout India, and still we are using electricity in upcoming new development in transportation like metro and electric cars. My counter question is that instead of developing these electrical vehicles, why can't we send this electricity to village areas?
To
village areas.
Yeah, definitely. See, like village electrification, that's called REC, Rural Electrification Scheme. That is very important. That is a priority. Now, electricity, if you are able to generate electricity using renewable forms of energy, for example, solar. Now, people are talking about solar farms and windmills, isn't it? So, you generate the electricity through those means, and using electricity to replace fossil fuels. So where are the fossil fuels being used? They are being used in the transport. The people are burning fuel. So that is making it highly expensive. Secondly, it is polluting the environment. Thirdly, we are dependent on the import, oil import, to the extent of 90%. Okay. So we are replacing that. So we should not say that we are having shortage of electricity. We should generate more electricity. For example, more nuclear power plants, or alternate forms of energy, renewable sources of energy, which are not going to get exhausted. Solar energy or even wave energy, for example, Vilnius, no, in near Trivandrum, they have a wave energy plant. So people are talking about geothermal energy. See, there are some thermal gradients which can generate energy, hydroelectric energy. So all these renewable forms should be used to generate energy, electrical energy, which will be used for driving the vehicles, so that the vehicles don't use polluting technologies. Okay, that is the solution.
Thank you, sir. And next question from Hemadri. What is the guarantee that ITS component do function always? If it fails to function while vehicle moving, how can we avoid accidents?
Yeah, that is a very good question. See, your systems must be fail-safe. See, what is known as fail-safe technology? Okay, fail-safe means when a system fails, it should fail in a safe manner. For example, a signal. Supposing a signal fails, what should it show? It should show red to all the traffic, no issues, or flashing amber. Okay, it should not show green. If it shows green, it will either show green to that phase all the time, or it will show green to another phase while these vehicles are moving. You understand? So that is called as a fail-safe system. It will fail in a safe manner. So this fail-safe concept is built into all technologies. Whenever technology is failing, there should be an alternate form, isn't it? So that is a good idea that it will be implemented. Any other questions?
Thank you, sir.
Lot of
Next question from Tirmalai Kumar.
Okay.
Last question, sir.
Yeah, tell.
Last question from Tirmalai Kumar. What EV could be helpful for rainwater accumulated road? What is your recommendation to use EV?
Sorry, I didn't get the question. I think your voice was dropping out. Can you repeat the question?
What EV? Okay, sir. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Tell. Go.
What EV could be helpful for rainwater accumulated roads? What is your recommendation to use EV?
No, EVs are completely encapsulated. You are feeling that supposing rainwater is there on the street, will it lead to some short circuiting or something? That's not at all the case. This Tesla, they say, no, Tesla vehicle is very, very safe. It is completely encapsulated. They have a very, very safe electrical system. So there is no question of short circuiting of an EV because of the flooding. But one point is, like for example, I was talking about green trains. Actually, green trains are using what is known as a third rail technology. Their train will be actually what is called as a duo bus. It will run as a bus as well as a rail, and it will be running along a fixed track inside the city center. So at that time, it will get the power from a third rail. So there, the danger of short circuiting is there. Okay, so that will be difficult. Maybe like he says, in our country, where during monsoon time our roads are always getting flooded, we should not use such technologies. No doubt about that. But any EV, if it is self-sufficient, if it is having the battery system inside the vehicle, it will not be affected by rainwater. No doubt about that. Okay, it's absolutely safe.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah.
It is a brief and quite interesting session about intelligent transportation system, and also we learned a lot. And once again, thank you for sharing your knowledge, sir. And thank you, participants, for your lovable support. Any other questions?
Dr. Parthiban, any comments?
Sir, thank you very much, sir. Very lengthy lecture, sir.
I think I far exceeded the. Of course, there is no tea break, no. See, when we conduct a course, we have this
Yes, sir.
problem with tea break and all. In a webinar, there is no problem with tea breaks, isn't it? Because I think the webinar has gone on for more than 1.5 hours. I'm really happy that so many people have responded. In fact, I find that in webinars, a lot of people ask a lot of questions. Whereas in a direct lecture, many people don't ask questions. So that way it is good. And I really congratulate Dr. Parthiban also for
Thank
putting
you,
in so
sir.
much effort for
Thank you very
organizing
much,
this
sir.
webinar. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Sir, can
Okay. Right.
can-
Shall we break? Okay, we'll break.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Right. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. All the best. Bye bye.
Thank you, sir. And thank you, participants, for your support. With this, we will conclude the session for today.